Hello and welcome to the office of El-Elyon. Today we are talking about trademarks. So what even is a trademark? And I know you probably hear that you need a trademark, everybody needs a trademark, but how would you know to get it if you don't even know what it is? So today we are going to cover that and we are going to go straight into it. So essentially, just in layman's terms, right? A trademark is an indicator of source for your goods or services. And that wasn't necessarily layman's terms, but all it means is that it distinguishes your brand from another brand. So it indicates the source of the goods or service. So let's just have a look at what a quick Google search says about trademarks. It says on the USPTO office, which is the United States Patent and Trademark Office, a trademark can be any word, phrase, symbol, design, or a combination of these things that identifies your goods or services. It's how customers recognize you in the marketplace and distinguish you from your competitors. The word trademark can refer to both trademarks and service marks. So I didn't really want to get into service marks straight away, but a service mark essentially is the same as a trademark. If you provide a service, you could use it as a service mark, and if you provide products or goods, then it would be a trademark. But people do use the term trademark and service mark interchangeably. Essentially, it's that indicator of the source of your goods or services. So let's think you have a brand. Let's talk about some brands. So we have Nike, we have Starbucks, you have Apple, you have Samsung. For my Android users, we're not going to forget about you, no shade, I promise. But the whole idea is you know these brands because of the reputation they've built. You know these brands because of what they provide, and they've done a good job to make sure that people know that this is an Apple product or this is a Samsung. Let's go with fridge. I think Samsung fridges are really good, just in my opinion. This is not a paid advertisement or sponsorship or anything. I'm just saying, just trying to give my, Android users a bit more love. But essentially, you know these brands because they have set themselves aside in the marketplace and they have registered their trademarks. So if somebody else came with a brand that was similar to Apple, like, let's not say banana, but let's say it was like Apple with no E on the end, and they also sold electronics and phones and all sorts of goods, then they would be able to say, well, hey, you're going to confuse customers as to the source of these goods. It needs to be clear so that you can be identified in the marketplace, especially against your competitors. Okay, so we've discussed the different things that you can trademark, right? And when it comes to words, there's also something to help you just know whether you can actually trademark it. So we have what's called fanciful trademarks. Those are normally very easy to register. They're normally very unique, and those are like essentially words that are made up. So imagine using the first two letters of all 7 of your kids' names, right? That, unless it actually spelled out an actual word, would be essentially made up, and that would be a fanciful trademark. So examples of that would be things like Exxon. That's completely made up, has no relation to the industry, but it's the name of the company. And then also things like Pepsi. So Pepsi is not a dictionary word, it's a word that was made for the brand, and so that's called a fanciful trademark. Then you've got arbitrary trademarks. And so arbitrary trademarks, and I'll just go briefly into it and give you an example, are ones where the word is a word, but it has no correlation to your specific industry or no relation to the industry. So another example of this would be Apple. So Apple obviously doesn't sell apples, but because they don't sell apples, that is why they were allowed to register it in that name. If, however, it was an apple farm that wanted to register Apple, that would most likely not be allowed, because then everybody who grew apples would be cut off from using that word, or there would be too much litigation around it. So you can't have names that tie in so closely to what you do. We will go into how to make sure your trademark has the best chances of being registered in another video, going into detail of the reasons why it's refused and why it's rejected. But this video really is to give you an overview of the types of things that you can register. So now you know what a trademark is, but you may still be wondering, okay, but why do I need it as a business owner? Well, apart from it setting you aside in the marketplace from others with similar names, you actually then could stop people from entering the marketplace with a similar name to yours. And the reason this is important is because, say, let's go back to Apple. If there's Apple the company and then Apple with no E on the end, so we're going to call them Apple. So in that case, if a customer sees both brands and they think, oh, is this the same brand as Apple, the one with the stellar reputation, with amazing products and have built a certain standard and expectation for their customers, and they're like, okay, well, it's close enough, it may be affiliated, that affects you as a company. If they go to Apple to buy instead of going to Apple, then you're losing out on customers. They may say, well, I bought something from Apple and it wasn't the right thing, it didn't last well, the battery was terrible. Then your reputation is being tarnished when it actually has nothing to do with you. So you as a federal trademark owner would then have the right to send a cease and desist and tell them to cease and desist from using your name. So that's one level of protection. Another thing is if you have goods and you've registered your logo or your brand with the trademark office, you can also then have it registered with the US Customs and Border Protection to stop people from bringing in counterfeit goods into the US. No illegal imports. Your brand would be registered with their register also. So if they see anything that's counterfeit or anything that looks similar to yours, then they would be able to stop that coming in, and then again save you some coins from people buying the counterfeit version of your goods when it's not verified that it's actually you. And in general, you don't want your competitors having similar names to you to the extent that customers can't identify or indicate the source of the services and goods, especially if they don't have the same kind of customer service you have, they don't have the same reputation that you've built up, and they don't serve customers at the same level that you do. You don't want any confusion or affiliation with a knockoff brand and your brand. So you as a federal trademark owner have the power to stop that. Now, just before we close out, I just want to run through a couple of misconceptions with you and clear the air. This is on the US Trademark Office website, and basically some people think that as soon as they own a trademark, they own the name, they own the word, and nobody ever can use it anywhere. But that's not the case. What is the case is that you own it within your field. So if you sell cars and you have a specific name, somebody could use that same name if they sell cupcakes, because customers aren't going to be confused. Is this the same brand that sells cupcakes that sells cars? Most likely not. So they will be able to register in a different class. And so you don't outright own the words or the names. It's actually just in your specific field or industry, unless you go as far to register it in different industries where you think you may be operating. Another misconception is that you can just register a name describing what you do. That is something that a lot of people don't know, and that's where we see a lot of trademarks getting rejected. As I mentioned at the beginning, your trademark name needs to be unique, it needs to be strong, and it just can't describe what you do. Let's go back again to the Apple example. If you're an apple farm, it can't just be called Apple. If you sell milk, it couldn't just be called milk. So in order for it to be protected, it has to be unique and it has to be strong. In another video, we will talk about how to create a strong trademark and make sure it's unique enough so that it actually has a higher chance of being accepted to be eligible to be registered. So just to summarize, a trademark is a word, design, slogan, sound, or even smell that distinguishes your brand from another, and the reason you want to register it is to be able to give your business the highest level of federal protection to stop others from infringing on your rights and customers being confused as to the source of the goods or services. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you in the next video.